amigos, hi guys, how you doing? Nick Jennison from Guitar Interactive, GI Plus. It's Monday evening. We're here to do the thing that we do on Monday evenings, which is talk about the guitar. And today, got the white guitar out because, well, no other reason than the fact that I was warming up on it and I realised that the sound for today doesn't hum or squeal quite as bad when I'm playing this guitar as it does when I'm playing with my regular sound, which is a bit more gained out. So seems like a perfectly good opportunity to bust out the Silver Sky. I think it sounds great for this sort of stuff, and more importantly, it looks very nice as well. So a couple of quick hellos. If you are a first-time viewer, hey, listen, thanks for coming. It's great to have you on board. If you're one of our returning streamers who's been with us for a little while now, it's great to have you back. Thank you so much for coming back and hanging out with us. We're going to talk about the Melodic Miner today, but in case you are a little bit intimidated by this topic, fear not. Melodic Miner is nothing to be afraid of. It's just another collection of notes like the collection of notes you already use. So we're going to try and make this as usable as we possibly can, but I'm also going to throw some stuff in there for some of you guys who are maybe a little bit more advanced, maybe you guys who are kind of into your jazz or your fusion or playing clever blues, as I've heard it referred. We all know what that means. Doing the Robin Ford kind of trip, all that sort of stuff. We'll give something for you guys as well, so don't worry. We've got something for Melodic Miner players of all levels, from 0 through to, like, I'm not going to say expert because, you know, if you're an expert, what are you here for? I'm joking. We're glad to have you. But, yeah. Something for all levels, hopefully, and we're going to frame it through the context of the blues. Seems like a perfectly good way to learn about this stuff and also to incorporate some cool new lines into your own playing. Before we do that, though, a couple of quick pieces of housekeeping. If you're enjoying what we're doing in these streams and you feel like you're getting some value out of what we're doing and you want to support us and enable us to keep doing these streams, the best way you can do it is you can go to guitarinteractivemagazine.com/GI Plus. Now, these streams are an extension of GI Plus. It is our lesson platform, and your GI Plus subscriptions enable us to keep doing these streams for free. So if you're into what we're doing, consider going and taking out a subscription down below. It is very much worth your money because it costs buttons and you get unbelievable amounts and quality of lessons. You get access to every lesson that's ever been published in Guitar Interactive Magazine and a whole bunch more. Like, and I mean a whole bunch more. We got everything covering jazz through to fusion. We got metal, we got blues, we got some shred stuff, some technique stuff, some feel stuff, you name it. We got all that good stuff in there, and presented to you by players like myself, like Tom Quayle, Sam Bell, Giorgio Cerci, Rick Graham, Andy Wood, Andy James. I get the Andys mixed up sometimes, too many Andys. Michelangelo Badio, which always makes me laugh because Badio is the boy. He is King Shred and all that sort of good stuff. Who else do we have in there? Manelli Jamal, Don Alder, Lewis Turner, you name it, right? So many great tutors. You get lessons from all those guys for a very small fee down below. So if you also want to help us out and you want to help these streams keep reaching as many guitar players as possible, but you don't want to spend any money, that's fine too, because what you can also do is you can give us a thumbs up on whatever platform you're watching on. You can subscribe to us if you're watching on YouTube, because I think a lot of you guys are subscribed, but not all of you. So if you're not subscribed to us, hit the subscribe icon, make sure the notification bell, easy for me to say, is set to all so that we can let you know when we're about to go live. We do it every Monday, 8 p.m. UK time. Says so down there, so you know where to find us, but in case you forget, it's good to be subscribed because we can give you a little notification and let you know. And of course, you can share this with your guitar playing friends. We'd like to get this out to as many guitar players as we can. And also, last but not least, you can drop us a comment because we love the comments. Comments do boost the algorithm, but they also give us an opportunity to answer your questions. So if you've got a question, drop a question down below. We will be answering that at the 45-minute mark. We'll be doing some Q&A sessions, but of course, if you have any questions that you want to bring up before then, feel free to throw them our way. We'd love to answer them if we can. We'll try our best for you. In the meantime, let's just check in with our stream and see how everybody's doing. Marcin, no sooner was the stream announced that Marcin was here. It is great to see you, Marcin. PJ is here. Hello to Nick and all. Melodic Miner is a fave of mine. Mine too, man. It's like an instant way of sounding clever, let's say. Now, clever is not necessarily the objective, but sometimes that's what we want. We want a little bit of let's say a bit of exotic seasoning in our blues for sure. It's a really fun way to kind of to escalate things, if you want to put it that way. Now, there's a few ways we can discuss this as rock players, and we'll talk about that in a future stream, but today we'll talk about it in a blues context. I do love a bit of melodic minor in the old blues thing. Now, Sacred Godslayer has articulated my thoughts on the melodic minor right away, which is lesson for the Dorian with the regular 7th. Now, this is my personal way of framing the melodic minor. Now, there are basically a whole bunch of ways that you can get to melodic minor, a whole bunch of ways you can get there, depending upon which scale you start from in terms of your visualization and what notes you move to get there. You might think about it, I've heard it described as a major scale with a flat third. That seems like a strange way to describe it, but it's true, I guess. I've also heard it described as a natural minor scale with a raised 7 and a raised 6. You can call them that too. For my money, I always think about it as Dorian, only a little bit brighter, because it has one additional raised note. But we'll get into that logic a little bit later on. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it for sure. Larry Warren is tuning in from the scorching west coast of Canada. I'm guessing the heat has hit you, Larry. We still haven't got it in the UK. Don't know what's going on. It's raining outside, but you know, I gather the heat's been pretty punishing, so I probably wouldn't trade it. But thanks for tuning in, Larry. It's always good to see you. Good evening, friends. Learned green sleeves at the weekend. Henry VIII rocks. Henry VIII does indeed rocks, and definitely the inspiration behind a certain king from Game of Thrones, who died when the series was still good. Anyway, did I say that? It's a long time now. A long time has passed. We're allowed to say these sort of things. PJ, mine too goes well with Phrygian dominant and diminished for sure. For sure. Exactly that, mate, says PJ, for sure. Team Midi Man says, this is going to be great. I hope so, my man. Hopefully we're going to get some cool stuff for you. David Yates is in the house. David, it's good to see you. Steve McD says, anybody else out there playing a Rock Dog Shredocaster? Wow. I don't know what that is, but I feel like I should find out. So I'm going to put a note down to explore that a bit later on. But yeah, Rock Dog Shredocaster, I am not. I'm playing my Silver Sky, though, which doesn't come out in the streams very often because of reasons of noise, but we can deal with the noise today. Although, speaking of noise, if you guys can hear a bit of white noise in the background, it's my fan. I've got a fan off camera. It's not blowing on me, it's blowing on my main camera, because the main camera's decided it's a little bit too warm, and it'll switch off if I don't blow a fan at it. So that's what we're doing. It's a bit of a prima donna, but it looks quite nice. So we're gonna let it off. Who else do we have? Keith MOF, Bert Whedon. I located my Play in the Day book from many years ago. If you need the chords to Bobby Shafto, I am your man. There you go. You're talking my language now. Anyway, what else do we have? Timothy Appling is in the house. Timothy, it is great to see you. Chris Brown is in the house. Very well educated and well-read guitar player is Chris, and he shares some fantastic videos. I love that you tag me in them. I watch them all. I think they're great. Who else in the house? Steve Ford is here. Steve, it's good to see you. Jason Carter's tuning in from Germany. Jason is a recent, I guess not that recent. You've been with us for a good few weeks now, Jason, but it's always lovely to have you on board. Thanks for coming along. Chris Brown says, guessing we're covering Lydian dominant over the 4 chord tonight. That is part of what we're going to look at. We've got some other things we can take a look at too. But yes, that is part of the way we're going to frame it. We're also going to take a look, hopefully, if we get time, at some minor blues stuff as well, because that's really good fun. Daryl Queen says, hello everybody, hope you're all doing well. I am indeed doing well. A little bit hungry, but I'm doing well apart from that. But I'm always hungry, so what else is new? Hey Professor Nick, hey guys, hope everyone is doing well. Mark, it is great to see you. Marty Sassa is tuning in from Illinois. Marty, it's great to have you on board. If you're a first time commenter, which I believe you are, thanks for taking the time to come and join us this evening. I think we're going to have some fun. Cowcat's here. My experiments with blues and melodic. My experiments with blues and melodic minor are in the context of changing chords. You move it a little bit on the grid and you're really screwed up. That is a very fair point, man. We're going to try and anchor this in something that's maybe a little more, I guess, a bit more familiar in terms of positioning. Hopefully that's going to work for us today. We'll see. We'll see. I'm sure it'll be fine. Who else do we have? Jason Carter is here. We've already said hello to Jason Carter, but Jason Carter's been dabbling in melodic minor, so great timing. I'm pleased to hear it, man. James Fair is tuning in from Glasgow. Response Audio is here. Mark Crandall is asking about melodic minor played over the 5 chord. We're going to get to that, Mark. We've got a question from Foghornish saying, I was getting confused with melodic with harmonic minor. Forgive me, friends. Oh, I get you. Easy mistake to make. We'll discuss the difference between the two very quickly as we go. Hairy guitarist Ola, says Craig, my friend Craig. I am not Ola, but I am a hairy guitarist, and I do not know the answer to whether it chugs or not. Who else do we have? Mal Riley's in the house. That's a name I haven't seen in a while. Great to see you. I'd like to know how to memorize melodic minor patterns when I have cage patterns burned into my brain. I'm going to save that because that's a really good question, and we'll see if we can address that at the 45 mark. So on we go. Who else do we have? Nick Harrison's here. Nick Harrison's back in the land of social media after so much technical issues. But Nick, it is great to have you back. Nick's a very good friend of mine and has helped me out with a bunch of stuff too. So great to have you on board. Nick is also tuning in to YouTube. He's watching, I guess, one broadcast with each eye. And if there's one person I know who could probably do that and get away with it, it's probably Nick. So anyway, listen, right, your fan found him at the South Shields gig. Could you imagine? I lost many fans at South Shields gigs. Anyway, so let's metaphorical and literal. But anyway, listen, let's get into the meat of today's session. So very quickly, you guys. Oh, Darren Payne is here, a new viewer. Darren, great to have you on board. Thanks for joining us. Just wanted to take a minute and highlight that real quick because it's lovely of you to drop a comment. If you got any questions, Darren, fear not, drop them down below. We'll answer them as we go on. So anyway, let's get into the meat of today's session. And what we're going to begin with is we're going to begin with an exploration of what melodic minor is and what melodic minor is not. So very, very quickly here, we've got some confusion between harmonic minor and melodic minor. We're going to get into this very, very swiftly, but we're going to start with probably the what I think is the easiest framework. Look how nice this guitar looks on the close-up camera. I think that looks absolutely gorgeous. But we'll start with probably the easiest framework to understand this stuff, which is against a pentatonic scale. Now, we're not going to do any pentatonic superimposition for this or any of that kind of silliness. We will get to that. But what we're going to do instead is take a common or garden B minor pentatonic. We're playing in B today, so everything's on fret number 7. If you want to play box number 1 of your pentatonic scale, you might think about it like thus. We might get 1 4 1 3 1 3 1 3 1 4 1 4. That could be our minor pentatonic scale. Dead easy. In terms of fret numbers, tone control's down a little bit there. In terms of fret numbers, we get not 5, we get 7 10 7 9 7 9 7 9 7 10 7 10. Now, the intervals in this particular scale, we'll get to this in a second, are going to be 1, flat 3, 4, 5, and flat 7. I'll say those again. 1, flat 3, 4, 5, and flat 7. Now, the melodic minor has an intervallic series that reads like this. I'm actually going to write it out so we can see it real quick. So it's going to read 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Dead easy, right? Let's just throw that on screen so you guys can see real quick. So we've got that. That's our melodic minor. That's the maths of the melodic minor. Now, if we very quickly take a look at our minor pentatonic scale, we said that we had 1, flat 3, 4, 5, and flat 7. So right away there's a bit of a clash there because the melodic minor is calling for a 7 and we've got a flat 7, but that's okay. We can work around this. So very quickly, let's start adding some notes into our minor pentatonic scale to take us closer to melodic minor. So what we might start thinking about is we might start thinking about those 7s. So real quick, we have 1, flat 3, 4, 5. There's our flat 7. So there's one of those. Now we know that if we take a flat 7 and we move it up by 1 fret or a semitone, we get this, which is going to be our 7. Now thus far, we've got this. 1, flat 3, 4, 5, 7. Now this is currently kind of a bit of a Schrodinger's scale in the sense that it's both the melodic minor and the harmonic minor. I'll explain why in a minute, but let's just run with that for the time being. So real quick, if we have 1 and then flat 3 here, so that's the same fingering, then 4, then 5, and then we trade this note in here, that's going to be our natural 7. We can then follow that up with our 1, which is this. So fret numbers are going to be 7, 10, 7, 9, 8, 9, like this. Now there are notes to throw in the mix, but this is just an easy way to get into it, right? And we're going to get used to the sound of this before we go any before we go too much deeper into the theory or the shapes or any of that sort of thing, because it's good to get the sound under your ears first. So let's move to the next octave. What we're going to do here is we'll do exactly the same thing, where we'll take this note, which is B fret number 10, and we'll sharpen that up to B fret number 11, which gives us this. So what we get this is we get fret numbers 7, 10, 7, 9, 8, 9, 7, 9, 7, 11, 7, 10. Now, the way I'm going to begin by playing this is I'm going to make these little melodic minor swaps over one of the chords in my blues, and I'm not going to worry about which one it, well, I'm going to worry about which one it is. I'm not going to worry you with which one it is, but you'll see the difference. I'll try and make this very obvious as we go forth in the stream. So we have this. Watch here. Catch it? Let me see if I can make it really, really obvious for you. Now, we won't get into the why this works just yet, but it does sound very cool, sounds very sophisticated. If we start to throw in some of the notes, we get a full-fledged melodic minor, and I'll show you what's going on with that. Now, Sacred Godslayer likes the sound we get if we skip the second and the sixth. I think that's very cool sometimes, totally agree, but it does kind of blur the line between melodic and harmonic minor somewhat. It's really only when we get the sixth in there that we start to really spot the difference. So let's go a little deeper with this, and then we'll start playing some stuff together. So what we might do next is we might start to introduce those sixes and those twos, because they're the notes we've missed. So far we've played 1, flat 3, 4, 5, and 7, so we've missed off 2 and we've missed off 6. Let's find them. So if we start here, on this note right here, we've got a great comment from our friend Nick. There's you can play anything at all over chord 4, and suddenly you're Scott Henderson. You can't say anything over chord 4 apparently, but you can play over it. Totally agree, and that is basically what we're doing here. But we are going to justify this. We'll give ourselves some rationale for this. So anyway, what do we got? We've got our 1. We're going to find our 2 here on fret number 9 on our low E string, and that's going to be mirrored on the high E string. So the 2 E strings are going to read 7, 9, and 10. So we find it here. If we plug that and only that into our scale thus far, we get this. It's starting to sound a little bit Malmsteen at this point. It's very much that. Nothing wrong with that. That's a cool sound for sure, but it's not the sound that we're looking for. So what we're going to do next is we're going to plug in another second, which we'll find here on fret number 6, where we get this. But we're also going to plug in a 6th note. So let me remind you where we've added so far. So far, we've taken a pentatonic scale. We've taken the 7s and we've raised them. This one here, this one here. We've added in second, here, and here. And then we've added in a 6, here, and here. Let me show you where they are. So the 6s are going to be appropriate enough on fret 6 on the D string, and then fret number 9 on our B string, which gives us this. of fun, let me show you how this sounds when we play it over that one specific chord in our blues, which is going to be the 4 chord, where we get this. Get a bit of a longer 4 chord this time, so let me show you what's going on. Here's pentatonic. Now you may be thinking to yourself, that's a lot to take in, Nick. Well, let me simplify this for you. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take a quick second and show you something, right? This is a course that's available to you as part of your GI Plus subscription. This is a course called Mastering Modes Part 1, which covers the 7 church modes that you might think of as the modes of the major scale. We don't get into melodic minor in this particular course, but if you sat going, don't know what these intervals mean, don't worry, right? We've got a course on it, but here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to do a little deal with you. I'm going to show you this, and then when we come back, I'm going to show you a little cheat that you can use to easily integrate this into your playing. A little cheat for you. So, but I'll show you the cheat when we come back. In the meantime, check this out. This is Mastering Modes Part 1. It's only a quick little video, but I'm going to take a second to show you this. You get this as part of your GI Plus subscription. So if you go to this link down below, guitarinteractivemagazine.com/GI Plus, this is one of the many courses that are available to you, and this will guide you from pentatonic to modes in no time. Check it out. When we come back, I'll show you a little cheat on how you can get this easily into your playing without really having to memorize a whole bunch of shapes. But first, check this out. This is Mastering Modes Part 1. Modes. What are modes? How do I use them? When do I use them? Well, modes are one of the things that the pros use to add excitement and colour to their guitar parts, and there is no reason why you can't use them too. Now, for some reason, people, especially certain online guitar teachers, love to make modes seem complicated and scary, but I'm here to tell you they really, really aren't. And in fact, if you know the pentatonic scale, I can show you how to play modes with just 2 extra notes. In this course, I'll show you how to play killer sounding guitar solos using modes without any of the mystery. You'll learn how to play musical sounding solos all across the neck in any key, crucially without sounding like you're just running up and down scales. So, if you're ready to take this next step with me, click the link to find out more. Told you it was quick. That's a little bit of a look at Mastering Modes Part 1. Now, that course is available for all of our GI Plus subscribers. It's going to do a great deal towards demystifying a bunch of the stuff that we've just talked about. So if you sat thinking, ooh, that's a lot of numbers, don't know what that means, fear not. The course is there for you. Also, I will also say on this very quickly, you will probably get through that course in less time than it took me to get my fingers into the shape for the chord on the front cover, because, I mean, what is that? That's outrageous. Incidentally, this is a pose, if you can believe it. It's a chord that I stole from Al Di Meola, who pulled the same chord on a cover of Guitar Magazine, and I've used it in every guitar pose ever since. It's a B6, and it doesn't sound that great, but it's fun. Looks absolutely wild, but we'll get to that in a bit. B-6 is slightly easier. If you wanted to do that, that's kind of a bit more, but B6 is what Al was playing, and it makes it look just outrageous. B-6, B6. Wow. So anyway, listen, I promised you guys a little cheat on this, so I'm going to give you one, right? This is a really fun little cheat. Lovely compliment from Jason Carter, though. Says the phrase value for money certainly applies to a GI Plus subscription, that's for sure. Jason, that is really good of you, and I'm glad that you're getting a whole bunch of the I'm glad you're getting a bunch of value out of this because there's so much stuff in there, right? I sometimes worry that it's like kind of a little bit overwhelming, perhaps. So if any of you guys are thinking about taking up a subscription and you want to chat to me about it, you can always find me on Instagram at Nick Jennison. That's probably the best place to find me. Send me a message, we'll talk. Or if you just want any guidance on where to go next after your next wee thing. Every time he says in this promo, certain online guitar teachers want to know which one. We do not name names. We do not name names because everybody's got their own way of doing things. And, you know, while I may not agree with it, it is far beyond the scope of someone like myself to say you shouldn't do it that way. I just think there's easier ways. So anyway, listen, we're getting off the track here. Promise you guys a little cheat. So I'm going to show you a little cheat, right? Watch this. I'm going to get you to focus on a handful of notes for this next little part. A real little handful of notes. And the handful of notes are going to be as follows, right? On your B string, remember we're playing in the key of B here. So B minor pentatonic. You can be as Eric Johnson as you want. I want you to focus on the following. Instead of playing a B minor pentatonic, you can play all the other notes exactly the same, but on the B string, play the following. Play fret number 7, fret number 9, fret number 11. 7, 9, 11. I'll say that again. 7, 9, and 11. Like this. Now, if you only play those notes and you play them in the right place, you're going to get the sound of this melodic minor vibe into your blues playing with basically minimal effort, which is kind of what we want. So that's a little cheat. Let me show you it in action. I'll show you when to do it as well. Here comes the 4 chord. Dead easy. Did you catch that? All I was thinking about there, literally all I was thinking about, and it's literally one thing, is taking that one B string shape and just applying some extra stuff to it. Now, that is a little cheat for you guys that want a really easy way to get into this, and the place that you play it is over the 4 chord. And we're going to explain why. But first, quick question from Simon Beckford. Simon Beckford's tuning in on Facebook. Simon, it's great to see you. The amp is a Victory Super Kraken, and it's set to gain 1, which is the British sound, with the gain pretty high because this guitar is very low output, and I've got the preamp focus engaged. It's a little bit like having a tube screamer into a British amp, if that makes sense, but not super gainy. But thanks for your question, Simon. Appreciate it. Stick around, we got some good stuff for you. And that's the amp, and I think it sounds pretty good. Into a Boss tube amp expander. The IR is a Marshall 412 with greenbacks, with a 57 and a 121. Pretty standard stuff, but the greenbacks make a difference, and this is a particular flavor of greenback that has quite a linear response. I have another one that's a bit more flavoursome, but I quite like this one. It sounds a bit combo-ish almost, only big. So anyway, we'll get into why this works over chord number 4 right now. So if you guys kind of get into the weeds of the theory a bit and you start to go, ooh, that's a little bit above my pay grade, fear not, because you have that cheat. You've got a fun little cheat that we can use over the 4 chord in your blues to get some of that cool little flavor in, right? Now, let's explain why this works. So, if we get into the depths of this a little bit and we take a look at what's actually going on in our 4 chord, right? Our 4 chord, in this instance, is an E dominant 7. E dominant 7. Contains the notes E, G sharp, B, and D. E, G sharp, B, D. I'm going to throw that on screen so we can see it. So we've got E, G sharp, B, D. E, G sharp. How on earth do you get a sharp again? Let's figure that out. G sharp, B, D. There we go. Let's just throw this on screen very quickly. E, G sharp, B, D. These are the notes of our chord. Now, if we take a look at the notes that are in our melodic minor, we get the following, right? If we take B melodic minor, which is what we have been playing, B melodic minor, we get this. We get B, that's in our chord, check. C sharp, it's not in our chord, but it's a semitone below our D. So that's good, so we have D, so we have almost this. That's a cool sound. What's next? E, that's in the chord, check. F sharp, that's not in the chord, but it's far enough away from the E and the G sharp that's not going to offend anybody. G sharp, that's in the chord, that's cool, we like that. What else do we have? This interesting guy right here. So we've done our G sharp, our next one is an A sharp. An A sharp, it's not a B flat, it's an A sharp in this context. That's a semitone below the B. That sounds pretty cool. So far, we've played this. But what else do we have? Let's keep going. B, well, B's in the chord. So we've kind of basically taken our chord. We've thrown in some additional notes that sound cool, but we could do that with anything. So let's work out what's actually happening there. Now, if we are to consider, real quick, let's just consider that we're playing B melodic minor, but we're playing it over E7. The fact that we're playing it over an E7 influences what the scale actually is. So we're playing the shape of B melodic minor, but it actually becomes B melodic minor played from the fourth. And the fourth note becomes the 1. I'm guessing there are some answers in the chat already. You guys probably have already caught this. But this gives us a scale referred to as E Lydian dominant. What? Lydian dominant? What does that mean? Well, Lydian dominant is what the name would imply. It's a Lydian scale that has been manipulated to map to a dominant chord. And by manipulated, I mean we've moved as few pieces as we possibly can. So let's very quickly take a second and let's take a look at what might go into E Lydian as a wee framework. So in our E Lydian, we get E, we're going to get F sharp. I'll just quickly throw this on screen so you guys can see. E, F sharp, G sharp. We're also going to get an A sharp. Wow, lots of sharps. B, we're going to get a C sharp. And then we're also going to get a D sharp. So let's throw this on. This is the majesty that is E Lydian. Beautiful sounding scale, all the sharps all the time, with the exception of the E and the B. What does it sound like? It sounds like this. Lovely sounding scale, but we can't play that over our E dominant 7. Why? Because it's got a D sharp in it, and our chord has a D in it. So what do? Well, we change it. We change it to contain a D rather than a D7, a D sharp rather. So now we get this. This is the scale that we refer to as Lydian dominant. E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B, C sharp, D natural. Now, this is a really valuable scale. It's a very valuable scale. But in this context, because we're playing it over the 4 chord, we can play B melodic minor and have it function as the 4th mode of B melodic minor, which is E Lydian dominant. This is a great way to introduce Lydian dominant into your playing without having to go and learn some stuff, because we just play B minor pentatonic and then we have an automatic place where we can shift to B Lydian dominant. Let me show you the scale formula for this real quick, because the scale formula is good. We get 1, 2, 3, 4, sharp 4 rather. Sharp 4, it's a weird one because it contains a sharp and a flat. So we get sharp 4, 5, 6, and flat 7. That's this. Right, oh, that's the wrong one. Let me just quickly do that again. 1, 2, 3, we got a sharp 4. We got sharp 4, let's do that again. Come on, why is that not sharp 4? Sharp 4, 5, 6, and flat 7. And that is going to look thus. That's what our Lydian dominant is going to look like. But of course, don't forget, you can cheat it. You can cheat some Lydian dominant in your blues by playing over the 4 chord. You just play the melodic minor from wherever you happen to be. If you're playing in B, you play B melodic minor when it comes to the 4 chord. Don't play it over the 1 chord, sounds weird, but if you play it over the 4 chord, sounds killer. But this is also really valuable because Lydian dominant is what we reach for as improvisers when we come up against a, let's call it a wild dominant chord. A dominant chord that just appears out of nowhere and doesn't really belong, let's say. Let me put this in an example. If we were to play something like American Girl by Tom Petty, which has D, in this instance, E7, G, and then I think it's back to an A. Now that E7 does not belong. So what we could play over that is we could play D, D major pentatonic, over E7, B melodic minor. Doesn't sound very Tom Petty, but over the progression it sounds cool. G, we can continue with our D blues, all that good fun. I'm going to show you an example of this in a backing track that I refer to as the Jobo Railroad Stomp. Now, this is Joe Bonamassa style backing track, and we're going to hit B. We're going to hit a melodic minor in this real quick. So the melodic minor I'm going to play is B. It's a really interesting one. Again, this is going to outline an E dominant 7 chord out in the wild, and I'll show you when it happens. Check this out. Track takes a little while to get to the thing, so I'll play for a wee bit. So this track's in E, but when it goes to A, that's where it gets interesting. Already thinking A. Right, here it comes. Keep your eyes out for B melodic minor. Here we go. So that wild dominant 7 chord. Not trying to play too elegantly over that. But this Lydian dominant equips me with the ability to play over those chords and have it sound really friggin' cool, if that makes sense. So that's part of when we got this business from. So this is the reason why you can play a melodic minor over your 4 chord, if that makes sense. It's a really cool sound. I think it's great. Really, really cool sound. Very quickly, right? Just buy the book. It's a good book, right? You should go get it. It's a really good book. I can recommend it very, very heartily. This is Nick Harrison's book, by the way. The Scale Practice Manual. Very, very good book. Go grab them. All the Nick stuff is good. Go buy them all. Yeah, just like no reservations. We don't make anything off it. It's not associated with us. It's just really good. So go and get it. Anyway, so that aside, that's the why. And it sounds cool. I'm sure you'll agree. That's the reason why. We've got a very, very fun one here. This is one from Nick Harrison again. It says the Lydian dominant scale for any proper theory geeks is the most naturally occurring scale as identified by acoustic physics. This is absolutely true. If you play the harmonics up a single string, you'll eventually get Lydian dominant, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's a very naturally occurring scale, but also, fun thing about the Lydian dominant is that it is, if you start taking things out, this is something Nick and I have talked about quite a lot. Nick has a theory that the major pentatonic scale is not the major scale with stuff taken out, it's the Lydian dominant scale with stuff taken out. And I can kind of agree with that. So here's a fun one, right? So Daryl Queen is asking the question, are these wild dominants, I think I've spawned a term here, I didn't mean to make it a thing, but so these wild dominants, they're not serving as the 5 of another chord. No, this is when you would use it. So you'd use it over a dominant chord that isn't the 5 of another chord. So the reason for this is when the dominant chord is a 5 of another chord, it's considered to have a function. So it's considered to be a functional dominant in that it's leading somewhere. This is more an example of if you just have one that just crops up and you go, where the hell did that come from? Which does occur. You get a lot of them. Occasionally case in point, you know, you may be tempted to spill into Lydian dominant if you were playing, say, I don't know, James Brown. Don't do this if you actually get hired to play this stuff, but it's a bit of fun. So, you know, you're playing E dominant 7, you might get something that kind of resembles this. So on and so forth. You could take that, and that could also be E Lydian dominant. So it could be this. Nothing to it. That's just like blues business. And you can also then spill that into... Don't do that if you're in a hurry to keep your gig, but it's something you can do. Now, here's a fun progression for you on this sort of stuff. A little, this is getting a bit more into the weeds with this, but we've kind of done the blues cheat. We'll talk more about that as we go, but it's a fun way to cheat some cool stuff with your blues playing. Let me show you another fun progression with this. I want to see if you guys can recognize something in this. So very quickly, take a look at the scale formula down here. This 1, 2, 3, sharp 4, 5, 6, flat 7, right? Take a quick peek at that and see if there's another scale that this is close to. So it could be considered to be a Lydian with a flat 7. But it could also be considered to be another scale with a sharp 4. So what scale, if we took away the sharp 4, what would we get? You guys answer me in the comments. I'm going to play it for you and show you. So in the key B, I think we've already got one. Already got an answer, but... So what do we got there? Right? Aha! Magic! Mixed Lydian, and our friend Sacred Godslayer has come with the Mixed Lydian Sharp 11. Now you can think about the Lydian dominant as Mixed Lydian with a sharp 4. Please don't say Mixed Lydian sharp 4 to musicians that are a bit tribal about this stuff, because you'll get in trouble. I've got in trouble with this as well, because I think Lydian dominant's the wrong name, and I've got a reason why I think it's the wrong name, but it doesn't matter if it's the wrong name, because names aren't that important. They're just something we use to communicate with each other, and ultimately, you know, I'm flying in the face of convention here, and if I was to say Mixed Lydian sharp 4 to lots of musicians, they'd look at me like I had two heads, and they might think I'm a bit thick. So yeah, there's just another way of framing it. But what you can do with this is you can then take the Mixed Lydian and you can take it as a progression device. So if we took something, let's just find a drum loop real quick. Appropriately enough, I don't have a funk backing track that I can play over, which is quite annoying, but I do have some drums. So imagine for a second that imagine we're playing over this. Now what I can start to do with this is I can begin with major pentatonic, which I can then progress into Mixed Lydian, which I can back out into major pentatonic at any time. Now, when I'm ready to take that progression a little step further, what I can do is I can start to play it again only with a sharp 4, which takes it and makes it a little more dramatic. So we might get this. And then I may get... And here it starts to get a bit kind of outrageous. And I can back it out into Mixed Lydian or into major pentatonic. So you can play major pentatonic into mixed Lydian, into Lydian dominant, and if you wanted to, you could then go further and go into whole tone, which sounds a bit wild, but still fun. There's Lydian dominant. Whole tone, and then back into mixed Lydian, away it goes. That's a fun little like step through some tensions that you can play with. So if you find yourself playing a mixed Lydian, you can go mixed Lydian, let's push it and try Lydian dominant. And if you feel like you want to push it a bit further, you can push it with whole tone. Let's do some whole tone in the blues, because the whole tone is fun in the blues. We've gone way off the remit for today, but that's fine. It's okay. So let's see if I can fit some whole tone over my my lovely 4 chord. Here's mixed Lydian. This time I'm going to put Lydian dominant in there. Let's try whole tone. Wild, but if you're deep enough into the solo, the audience might go with you. And if you resolve it okay, they might be with you. I'll try it over this 4 chord here. Here's the 5 chord. Whew. Bizarre. Very, very strange. Very strange. Derek Queen's got a question. Whole tone brings the natural 7 back into the equation. Depends which whole tone we play. In this case, we're playing E whole tone, because we're playing E Lydian dominant. So we're getting a little off into the weeds with that. But you can also do, for a bit of fun, by the way, this is just a bit of a laugh, I guess. I've lost my overlays. Let's bring them back. Let's get rid of this guy. A bit of fun. You can also take the same progression approach to minor pentatonic to Dorian to melodic minor to whole tone. Ultimately, all things lead to whole tone, apparently. And I do have a backing track that's appropriate for that. We'll go back to that Joe Bonamassa one, because that's really good fun. Watch this. Here's a bit of fun. So, minor pentatonic. This guitar sounds great. Can't see my face now. Probably a good thing. Dorian. Melodic minor. Let's go into whole tone. Woo! Bizarre. Strange old sound, but a lot of fun to be had. Now, again, this is starting to push into some very unusual sounds. They're not bad sounds, they're cool sounds, but they're very unusual. So, listen, let's do a very quick recap on this one. Very, very quick recap. So, if we take a look at what we've actually done here today. So, we've established a few things. We've established that we can play this note, and this note, and this note over the 4 chord in a B blues. Now, whichever key we're in, this will also scan. So, if we're in G, we can do this. Same thing. So we play with the 4 chord. We can think about just boshing this note up and playing this note too. So we can do that. That's a very simplistic way of looking at it. We can also think about, in the blues, whatever key we're in, if we're in B, we can play B melodic minor over the 4 chord. So that's the next step in this little logical progression, where we go, okay, I'm going to play B melodic minor. We've gone from this note good, nothing wrong with that. Sometimes that's the right way to think about this sort of stuff. We've gone from that to, I'm going to play B melodic minor over the 4 chord. The next step in this progression is to go, I am going to play E Lydian dominant over this chord. which is the same notes as B melodic minor, right? So hopefully that makes sense, right? And then if you wanted to go a little further with that, you can go E Lydian dominant is something that I can progress in and out of the mixed Lydian, progressing in and out of the mixed Lydian and the major pentatonic, and even go into whole tone if you want. So we've covered a lot of ground today, and hopefully that's a little something for everybody. It's very difficult to take this sort of stuff and kind of get it so that every player gets something out of this, but I think there's something for everybody there, if nothing else. So anyway, listen, we're going to answer some questions. So if you have questions, drop them in the comment section. We'll be heading those up in a bit. If you're sat going, yeah, that's cool, but my blues playing doesn't sound that great, well, fear not, we've got a course for you as well. And the course in question might be this one. This is a course called Expressive Techniques Part 1. And it shows you how to be a more expressive guitar player. It shows you how to take this and turn it into this. Well, it's switch pickups. So let's do that again. It turns you from this and makes it this. Except you'll hit all the notes. So on and so forth, right? If you want to be a little more expressive with your playing, check this course out. And when you come back, we'll be answering your questions.
Hi guys, Nick Jennison with Guitar Interactive and GI+. Does your playing sound like this? When really you'd like it to sound like this? Now, the difference between these two examples are not the notes that are being played, but rather the way the notes are being played. I'm sure you've heard this before. Guitar players will say to you, it's not what you play, it's how you play it. And when it comes to creating interesting, emotive, and musical sounding guitar lines, that is very much the case. And in this course, Expressive Techniques Part 1, we aim to equip you with the tools to sound more musical, more emotive, more interesting, and ultimately more expressive on the guitar. And we are going to do this by exploring the three principal left-hand expressive techniques, which are slides, bends, and vibrato. I'm going to show you the mechanics of these techniques and how you can execute them cleanly, efficiently, and reliably. I'll also give you some exercises to help develop these techniques, and we're also going to discuss some musical applications, how you might use these techniques in your own playing. We're going to go into great depth with that stuff, and I'm also going to give you a solo study, a piece of music I prepared, and I'm going to encourage you and kind of guide you through the process of applying expression to an otherwise expressionless and bare sounding piece of guitar playing. So at the end of this course, you are going to be able to take otherwise uninteresting and fairly dry pieces of music and turn them into expressive, colourful, musical lines. And you're also going to be able to take this and apply it to your own playing or to other people's music that maybe you're playing and you want to express in your own way. This is Expressive Techniques Part 1. My name is Nick Jennison for Guitar Interactive and GI+. I hope you'll join me. I will see you in there.
So that's another one of the courses that you get as part of your GI Plus membership. There's a lot of stuff in there, let me tell you. It ain't just all me either. We've got some great stuff from a whole bunch of great teachers. Tell you more about that as we go on. But yeah, you ever thought about signing up for GI Plus? Maybe this is the thing. This is the deal. I love this. Great comment from Sacred Godslayer. There's Nick, we're getting dense and dense over these lessons. You really took us by the hand. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate that, man. You know, we're going on a musical journey together, and it's always fun to talk about this sort of stuff. So I love that we get to go deep on this sort of stuff, but we also get to give some stuff to our friends who maybe haven't gone quite as far on this sort of deal. So here's a question that I think is a really, really good one. Question on the advanced blues subject. Instead of thinking Mixolydian for every chord, is it better thinking in Mixodorian Aeolian from the one for every chord? Oh, I get where you're going from with this, right? I actually don't necessarily think so. I think the way to think about it, if you really want to get into the depths of this stuff, is I would treat each chord individually, or treat each, if you wanted to go down this road, I would treat each chord individually as a dominant 7 chord, and take a look at what's traveling to it and what is traveling towards, or rather what comes before it, what comes after it, and use that to influence whether you're going to play as a functional dominant or whether you're going to play it as more of a static dominant, or the wild dominance that we talked about today. Now, in terms of the way you treat that, you have so many options, and it depends upon what kind of sound that you want. So if you want a sweet sound, you can take your dominant chord and you can lean more heavily on the major pentatonic. If you want kind of a bit of an eyebrow raisy sound, you can take your dominant 7 chord and lean on the Lydian dominant. You could also do this with any of the dominant chords, by the way. You can do it with the 1 chord if you so desire. You can even play the 1 chord as an altered dominant if you like. That's quite good fun. Going to the 4 chord, if you have quick change blues, if we were to play something a little bit wild, let's say for example we played that, like, let's call it B superlocrian. If we played that over this 1 chord, we can do that too if we want. That's a bit of fun. Let me just quickly show you. The reason that works is because it becomes 5 going to 1. So I'll talk very quickly a bit more about that, the answer to that question. I just want to show this because it's a lot of fun. So if any of you advanced blues players are out there, you're really feeling kind of ballsy, treat the 1 chord in a quick change blues, i.e. where you go to the 4 chord on bar number 2. Treat the 1 chord as treat that as like an older dominant, and what you get is this absolute lunacy, which is really good fun. That's it's a bit nuts, to be honest, but it's really quite good fun, right? It's really good fun. So yeah, there you go. But in terms of treating each one as its own chord, what I would do with that is I would treat each one as a dominant 7 at its heart, which is this, and then what you might do from there is then you might progress out from the dominant 7 chord in a whole range of different ways. So if we take this dominant 7 like this, what we can do there is we can treat that as major pentatonic. We can treat it as minor pentatonic. We can treat it as some combination of the two. Oh dear. We could treat it as Lydian dominant. We could treat it as mixed Lydian. Now, the way you do this is kind of really down to the sound that you want over that particular chord. So this is the important thing. You don't think about the chord as necessarily entirely dictating what you should play. The chord dictates the options that are open to you, but then you as the artist get to choose, well, what sound do I want to make over this? What do I want to say? And that's the I guess that's the interesting deal with this sort of thing. That's the way I'd approach it. But I would also say, very quickly, do not be afraid to do a Stevie and just play minor pentatonic over the 1, because sometimes that's it. Let me show you the difference, right? I'm going to throw a Texas blues track on, and I'm going to try and play some slightly more wild stuff over this. This is not a quick change. This is a regular change, but it's got some fun stuff on the 5 chord. But this will be like an SRV type thing. And what I'll do is I'll play some crazy like changes stuff over this, and then I'll play just some major and minor pentatonic in E. It's in E real quick. So let me show you the difference, right? Check this out. This is with hitting the changes. So I did get that. This is without. Probably cooler, I would say. So this is the deal with this stuff, is it's great to have these options, and they are magic, right? They're really cool for interjecting some spice into your playing, but they're not always better than the more simplistic approach. Sometimes the more simplistic approach is exactly it. It's the thing. I heard Greg Cox say something really, really cool to me. A really interesting one here. So Chris Brown is saying, it seems to be the melodic minor drive sounds don't lend themselves to traditional blues vocabulary, so blending the two approaches can be a challenge to do it naturally. For sure. Let me see if I can actually do that. Let's see if I can do it using a blues vocabulary approach, because that might be better. Here we go. Let's check this out. Again. Just sounds like I'm playing out of tune. If I'm being honest, it just sounds like I'm playing out of tune. I'm not. I promise you I'm not, but it sounds that way. So, you know, be careful with this stuff. But going back to the whole business, sometimes the simplistic thing is the best way to go. I've got my slide here just kicking off camera. It's fun to play crazy stuff and slide, but if you want to sound like Derek Trucks, I can't sound like Derek Trucks, by the way. You just play the major pentatonic and you're good. So, you know, go back to the story about the Gristle King. What was Greg Cox saying? Oh yeah, this is the story about the Gristle King. So yeah, Greg Cox was talking about how to sound like Derek Trucks, and it was like get slide, play major pentatonic, have the heart of Aretha Franklin. You know, that last bit, not so easy, but that's the vocabulary. Major pentatonic admittedly does all the cool Indian stuff too, but for the soul singery business, a lot of it's just major pentatonic, and it's not for a lack of knowledge, it's just because that's the thing, that's the sound. So, real quick, I want to show you, talking about the sound, I want to show you a fun trick on S-type guitars, just for a bit of a laugh, I guess, real quick. So anyway, listen, let's talk about that. So real quick, you want to play some cool slide stuff. Oh yeah, and fret with the slide, says Chris Brown. Apparently Derek thinks he doesn't do that. Whether he does is a different story, but he says his response to Greg Koch on that was, actually I don't do that, but I might try, because it sounds cool. And it's how Greg Koch ends up sounding like Derek Trucks, for sure. Now, I definitely hear it in Derek's playing. I can't emulate it, but it's one of those things. But yeah, real quick, cool tone on S-type guitars, right? Real quick, go to position 2 and turn the tone control down most of the way on one of the pickups. I prefer to do it in the middle pickup. What you'll find is there is a resonant peak on most tone controls, where it starts to make this kind of honk wah sound, and it's never quite at the bottom. It's always just somewhere around there. A bit further. So there I've turned the middle position down, right? If I go to position 2, this tone control is wide open, this tone control is down, and you get this. Which is just gorgeous for slide. So if you're going to play some slide stuff, do I have a Derek Trucks style backing track? I think I do. Let me just quickly find it. I'm certain I do. Modern Soul Ballad, that'll do. This is the John Mayer style track, but it's close enough. So for this sort of stuff, Major pentatonic. That position's really great. Now, let me go to just the bridge pickup. Little brash. Position 2 without the tone control. It's fun. Turn the tone control down on just the middle position. Sounds fabulous. Really fun trick. It only works if one of the pickups has the tone control down. That's the only way it works. So really fun thing on S-type guitars. This is one of the reasons why I like to see, personally, my favorite wiring for an S-type guitar with this is a dedicated middle tone control and then a separate tone control for bridge and neck. Because I quite like the Strat bridge control, bridge pickup kind of wide open. I think it sounds cool. But yeah, anyway, so we're getting onto that. So let's crack on real quick. We've got one more wee quick question about Mal Riley's question. How to memorize the melodic minor patterns when I have the cage patterns burned into my head. Okay, I'm going to give you because we've run over, but I'll give you the crib sheet on this because it's kind of quick, right? So check this out. So the way to think about it is melodic minor starts with Dorian, and if you have a Dorian shape, raise all the 7s, right? Stick with me. Dorian, just go through and raise the 7s, and then you're good. For Phrygian, go through and raise the 6s. For Lydian, go through and raise the 5s. For Mixed Lydian, go through and raise the 4s. You see where I'm going here. For Aeolian, go through and raise the 3s. For Locrian, go through and raise the 2s. For your Ionian shape, which will give you Super Locrian, go through and raise the 1s. So as you start with Dorian, you go raise 7, raise 6, raise 5, raise 4, raise 3, raise 2, raise 1. Incidentally, Mixed Lydian with the flat 6, or Aeolian with a sharp 3, Aeolian dominant I've heard it referred to sometimes, is a gorgeous sound. Absolutely gorgeous sound. So anyway, listen, guys, fingers crossed you took some cool stuff away from that. We'll get into that in more detail perhaps another time, but fingers crossed we got some good stuff out of there. Again, trying to be quite broad with this stuff, and I'm trying to make sure we've got something. So even if we don't get everything in these streams, that's totally fine, right? We're trying to make sure we've got something for a player of every level, whether it's just a quick shortcut in this stuff or some really deep weeds kind of territory. I want to make sure we got something for everyone. So fingers crossed, I think we might have got it. In the meantime, I'm going to play you out on one of my favorite melodic minor type scales, or I'll touch on it anyway, which is, you might think about it as E Aeolian with a raised third, right? You could think about it as Aeolian dominant. Its more common name is Mixed Lydian flat 6, but either way, it gives you this sound. It's one of the cheats that I'll use to make my slide playing sound more competent than it is. Because it's a really nice sound. I'm going to play this out in the John Mayer style backing track. In the meantime, thanks for having me. My name's Nick Jennison from Guitar Interactive. GI+, you want more lessons that are way, way, way more in depth, but also paced out a little better than a 1-hour stream, go to this URL, guitarinteractivemagazine.com/GI+. Remember, your memberships are what enable us to keep doing these streams, and there's so much good stuff in there. I think you're gonna get some real cool use out of it. But for the time being, let's play some slide, and I'm gonna turn the reverb up as well, because slide and reverb go together like cheese and carbohydrates. Let's do it. Catch that note there? Loads of fun. There's the little tone trick. Incidentally, that was another one of those wild dominants. Let me show you that again. F sharp is coming up. Catch that sound there? Loads of fun, right? Anyway, I'm going to bid you guys adieu. Before we do, real quick, this is a little look at some of the stuff that you get in your GI Plus membership. Check it out.
My name's Nick Jennison, and it's a pleasure to introduce to you GI Plus, the brand new lesson platform brought to you by Guitar Interactive. We've assembled a team of the best players and educators in the world to bring you exclusive lessons covering everything from metal to blues to fusion and everything in between. Want to level up your shred chops? Check out How to Play Fast by Andy James. Or how about sweep picking with Rick Graham? Or maybe country's more your bag? Well, how about a full-length exclusive country guitar course from Andy Wood? Interested in learning how to play over changes? Well, members get access to hours of exclusive lessons from fusion maestro Tom Quayle. Or maybe you want your playing to sound more soulful? Well, who better than Chris Buck to show you how it's done? Or perhaps you want to learn the secrets of the masters. Well, members get access to over 60 feature-length tech sessions where our tutors painstakingly decode the styles of players like David Gilmour, Eddie Van Halen, John Petrucci, Larry Carlton, Slash, Tosin Abasi, Paul Gilbert, and many more. You get all this along with exclusive live webinars, free backing tracks, competitions, and so much more. So what are you waiting for? Sign up for GI Plus today.